Today we're kicking off a new series called Every Day. We're going to talk about ways of making our faith a regular part of our lives, not just something we think about on Sundays. Now, when we do this, when we make something a part of our everyday lives, it becomes something else, a habit, right? Habits are routine behaviors that we do consistently. And in this series, we're going to explore how we can develop everyday habits that will strengthen our connection with God. All of us already have everyday habits, some of which have intentionally been put into place. Habits like waking up or going to bed at a certain time, getting a cup of coffee as soon as you get to the office, watching a certain news program every day, meal times, taking our morning vitamins and medications at the same time, at the same seat of the table every day, tuning into the same podcast every morning while you take the exact same route to work, calling a friend or family member on the way home from work. Other habits tend to choose us, whether we're aware of them or not. Habits like grabbing our phone and scrolling through social media at various times throughout the day, biting our bottom lip as we contemplate something, leaving our worn clothes on the floor of our closet or just on the floor to live in the gray zone between clean and dirty, checking social media hourly to see how many likes we got on our latest post, driving through Dunkin' again for some coffee and those seasonal donuts, placing an order on Amazon when we're in a bad mood. We all have behaviors, habits, and things that we do every day. Some are good, some are not so good. Some are intentional, some are not. But each of these habits have become an everyday part of our lives. You already know that habits are powerful. There have been countless books written on the power of habits, the formation of habits, and how to quit a habit. They have the ability to shape our lives and influence our choices. The same is true when it comes to spiritual habits. When it comes to our faith, developing everyday habits can help us stay connected with God. See, connecting with God is similar to the way we connect with most important people in our lives. We want to know those people better, to spend time with them, and to share our lives with them. And in order to maintain a close relationship, we make it a habit to prioritize that connection in our everyday lives. But while the same principle applies to our relationship with God, that just seems different, right? Connecting with God can sometimes feel confusing or difficult, no matter where we are in our walk with Him. Some of us have been attending church for years, reading the Bible, singing the songs, praying, and doing all the right things. Yet even though we have a habit of attending church, we might feel like something is missing. The things that used to make us feel connected to Him may not feel the same anymore. We don't feel any closer to God no matter how much we do. Others of us might be new to the Christian faith. We've recently chosen to live for Jesus, but so far, we haven't seen much change in our lives. We thought things would immediately be different, yet we still feel somewhat disconnected from Him. And then there are those of us who may question the very existence of God. We're unsure if we even want to connect with God because we're not convinced He's real. How can we connect with an invisible God? And why should we try if we're not even sure that we believe? No matter where we find ourselves, we're all asking similar questions. What does it really mean to connect with God every day? Why should I desire an everyday connection with God? What will connecting with God do for me right now? How do I make connecting with God a priority when my schedule is already so full? If you're asking any of these questions, we're glad you're here today because we're going to explore these questions and more. We're going to discover how making our faith an everyday part of our lives can have a profound impact on us. The good news is we aren't the first people in history to wonder about what it means to pursue an everyday faith. One of Jesus' disciples, John, not only walked this planet with Jesus and not only knew the sound of His voice, but he documented these interactions and observations so we could read about them thousands of years later. In this particular instance, John writes about some wisdom Jesus shared with His followers. Imagine this. You're gathered with Jesus and His disciples, sharing a meal that would be their last before His crucifixion. The disciples don't exactly know what's coming, but Jesus repeatedly mentions His departure, leaving them uncertain of what lies ahead. An air of worry hovers over the evening. Can you picture the scene? Amidst the disciples' anxiety, Jesus lovingly imparts a profound truth that would guide them through the days to come. He says this, "I am the vine, you are the branches. Those who remain in me and I in them will produce much fruit, for apart from me, you can do nothing. Now, don't you think the disciples must have been puzzled by Jesus' choice of metaphors, vines and branches? How does gardening relate to our lives? They might have wondered. Maybe you're wondering the same thing. To place Jesus' words in context, it's important to understand that vines and branches were a common part of the agricultural world back then. So Jesus intentionally uses this metaphor, knowing it would resonate with his disciples. So what did Jesus mean by calling himself the vine? Well, picture this. Branches rely entirely on the vine for their sustenance. The vine is their source of life, delivering what they need to thrive. In order to flourish, branches must remain connected to the vine. If Jesus were speaking to us today, he might say something like this: I am the charger. You are the phone. To keep functioning, you need to be plugged in to me. And then Jesus urged us to remain in him, which is another way of saying that we should maintain our connection with him. Because when we do, we become fruitful. Just as branches need to maintain their link to the vine to grow and thrive, we too must stay connected to Jesus, the source of our life. The moment we detach ourselves from him, we lose our source of spiritual sustenance. We hinder our ability to bear fruit and fulfill our purpose. Jesus created a way for us to connect with God when he died on the cross and conquered death. Jesus removed the barrier that separated us from our Heavenly Father. Then his very Spirit came to live inside of us. Now we can directly and intimately connect with God. As a result, our lives are transformed. Our relationships, attitudes, choices, and words begin to reflect the impact of being connected to God. When we draw near to God, our lives bear witness to this connection. We deepen our understanding of who God is and encounter his goodness, love, compassion, and perfect plan for our lives. These words of Jesus came to life in a new way for me recently. I was recently standing in the backyard of my newly purchased home, ready to add gardening to my resume. The good news? The previous owner had left behind traces of her incredible green thumb as an unexpected inheritance in my yard. The bad news? My thumb was not so green. In fact, I knew absolutely nothing about caring for plants and trees and flowers, but that didn't stop me. I began to watch YouTube videos for guidance, and then armed with a trusty gardening app, I decided I was ready to attend to the plants in my yard. And I actually kept them alive. As I explored my yard, I took in the beautiful sight of vibrant purple wisteria vines intertwining with evergreen pines, creating this amazing mix of color and fragrance. Inspired by their beauty, I decided to tame some overgrown branches by using my pruning shears. This turned out to be a mistake. Days later, I returned to admire my work, and I was shocked to realize what I had accidentally done. The entire left side of the vine wall was lifeless. I had accidentally severed the main vine of the beautiful wisteria and had affected the connected branches. I stood there staring at what remained of a once vibrant masterpiece. I had allowed overconfidence and impulsivity to overshadow the care and thoughtfulness required to care for this plant. Now, doesn't faith often mirror this experience? In the pursuit of success and the fulfillment of responsibilities, and let's admit it, our impatience for results, we can neglect approaching our spiritual lives with intentionality and care. Just as the wisteria branches need to connect to the main vine to maintain life, we need to connect with Jesus every day to sustain and advance in our faith. Cultivating an everyday faith requires consistency, and consistency requires that we maintain a connection to our Savior. If we desire to truly know God and witness his presence in our lives, we must remain connected. The more we connect with God, the more we come to truly know him. And in this beautiful journey of connection, we discover a deeper revelation of his character, his heart, and his unfathomable love for us. So how do we make our faith an everyday part of our lives? Let's explore 3 key ways that we can stay connected with God in our everyday lives. First, take inventory of your everyday habits. Write them all down. Pay attention. Ask someone who knows you well to help you identify your habits. And once you have a list, take inventory of how many everyday habits you have intentionally put in place and how many just unconsciously happened. Consider how many of those daily habits have anything to do with your faith. Second, prioritize intentional moments with God. We often have busy schedules, juggling work, family, kids, various responsibilities. It's crucial to carve out dedicated time for God in the middle of the chaos of life. This might involve setting aside a specific time each day for prayer, Bible reading, worship, spending time in creation or stillness. Consider incorporating these practices into your morning routine, over your lunch break, during your commute, or even before bed. Experiment and find what works best for you. Remember, it's not about achieving a specific length of time, but rather about cultivating a consistent habit of intentional connection with God. Third, cultivate an attitude of continuous connection. Our relationship with God can't be confined to scheduled moments. Just as we maintain contact with our loved ones throughout the day, we should seek to keep an ongoing conversation with God. This doesn't mean praying nonstop, but rather developing a constant awareness of God's presence in our lives. Take moments to offer up prayers of gratitude, seek guidance in decision-making, or simply acknowledge God's presence in everyday situations. By inviting God into our daily routines, we actively acknowledge our dependence on Him and open ourselves to God's guidance and transformation. Remember, cultivating an everyday faith requires consistency. Don't be discouraged by moments when you feel disconnected from God or when your faith feels stagnant. Building a lifelong relationship with God is a journey, not an instant transformation. And we can build this relationship by continually staying connected to Jesus.